The dark truth behind Crystal McDowell's disappearance. Some crimes are shocking, some are heartbreaking, and some are so disturbing they leave more questions than answers. Today's story is all three. This is the tragic case of Crystal McDowell, a loving mother, a successful real estate agent, and a woman who vanished during one of the most destructive hurricanes in American history. What happened to her in those final hours is a story of jealousy, obsession, and betrayal. Who was Crystal McDowell? Crystal McDowell was born in Texas in October of 1979. From a young age, life tested her in ways most people can't imagine. Both of her parents struggled with addiction, and by the time Crystal was just 11 years old, she had lost them both only months apart. Not long after, she survived a terrifying kidnapping ordeal that left deep emotional scars. But Crystal refused to let trauma define her. She grew into a fearless, energetic, and determined woman. Friends described her as bright, adventurous, and full of life. She loved challenges, even skydiving from airplanes just for fun. Eventually, she became a flight attendant and later a flight instructor, a career that allowed her to travel, grow, and chase freedom. Marriage and a crumbling life. In her mid-20s, Crystal met Stephen McDowell. He seemed confident, strong, and dependable. They married in 2007 and built what looked like a stable family with 2 children. But behind closed doors, cracks began to form. Crystal worked nonstop, eventually finding massive success in real estate. Meanwhile, Stephen quit his job and stayed home. At first, it seemed admirable, but soon, financial pressure and emotional distance began tearing their marriage apart. Stephen depended entirely on Crystal's income. He spent money recklessly, and arguments became routine. After 10 years of marriage, Crystal made the difficult decision to divorce. Even then, she showed kindness, leaving Stephen in the family home while she prepared another house for herself. But emotionally, she had already moved on. While finalizing her divorce, Crystal met Paul Hargrave, a jewelry store owner. Calm, confident, and steady, Paul was everything Stephen wasn't. Their relationship grew quickly, and for the first time in years, Crystal felt truly happy. But this happiness would not last. The day she disappeared. On August 25, 2017, Crystal spent the night at Paul's apartment. Early that morning, security cameras captured her leaving alone, getting into her black Mercedes, and driving away. That was the last confirmed sighting of Crystal McDowell. Later that day, Hurricane Harvey slammed into Texas, unleashing catastrophic flooding, chaos, and destruction. As the storm raged, Crystal's family tried desperately to contact her. No calls, no messages, no location updates. This was completely out of character. By nightfall, her uncle reported her missing, but emergency services were overwhelmed. Thousands of people needed rescue. A missing person investigation during a historic hurricane felt almost impossible. Hours later, someone reported seeing Crystal's car abandoned at a flooded Motel 6 parking lot. The doors were open. The keys were still inside. It looked staged, as if someone wanted the vehicle stolen. But floodwaters destroyed nearly all physical evidence, making the investigation incredibly difficult. With no crime scene, no witnesses, and no phone records, detectives turned to the people closest to her. Suspicion fell on 2 men, her ex-husband Stephen and her new boyfriend Paul. Paul insisted Crystal had left normally that morning, and he had no idea what happened afterward. Security footage later confirmed his story. Stephen, however, gave investigators confusing answers. Surveillance footage showed him near the abandoned vehicle hours after Crystal vanished. He claimed he had gone shopping for hurricane supplies, but store records revealed he actually purchased a bicycle. Cameras later showed him riding that bike back toward his home. The pieces were slowly coming together. The confession. Under pressure, Stephen finally broke. He admitted that Crystal returned home that morning, and they argued. He begged her to give their marriage another chance. She refused. She told him she was in love with someone else. Then, in a moment of rage, jealousy, and obsession, Stephen strangled Crystal until she stopped breathing. He wrapped her body, placed her in her own car, drove to the Motel 6, and dumped her remains in a wooded area nearby. Days later, her body was found. At trial, Stephen attempted to claim sudden passion, arguing that emotions overwhelmed him. The jury didn't believe it. They saw a jealous, controlling man who couldn't accept rejection. Stephen McDowell was convicted of murder and sentenced to 50 years in prison. Crystal McDowell survived unimaginable pain, overcame trauma, and built a successful life for herself and her children. In the end, it wasn't a hurricane that took her life. It was the person she once trusted most. Her story is a reminder that the greatest dangers sometimes come from those closest to us. Please like, subscribe, and share.